soundtrack, and we set about recording. You know, the first thing I did was write the lullaby, which really hasn't. Sting, they released a version with Sting. They haven't released a version with Jennifer Lawrence yet, and the fans are all very upset about it. And I have to say, I don't understand why they haven't, if you'll forgive me for saying so. Anybody who out here has heard of it or anything. But Jennifer does a beautiful job of it. And did a beautiful job of it live on the set. I was at the set when she was singing. It was a very difficult song to sing with a spear and this little girl, and you know, singing this lullaby to her, but she just killed it. So I would like to get it out there sometime. They use a short part of it in the film.
It's interesting because the books have this huge impact on a teenage audience, and obviously the movie, you know, the audience primarily was going to be teenagers, and yet I guess the musicians that you use are a little more maybe obscure and skew a little older as well. Was that? Did you have any trouble using those people?
I mean, that was a confusing process. People, I was first given the task of recording an Appalachian record. You know, that's when I went to Glenn and said, "Look, what does Appalachia sound like in 300 years? It could sound like anything. You know, it could sound like AC/DC, or it could sound like Stephen Wright. Why would it sound like Stephen Wright?"
Yes.
So, you know, I kind of looked for artists who would rise to that challenge, or who would feel that was an interesting challenge. I'm sorry, I feel like I've had my back to you all night. How are you over there? Good to see you. But you know, so am I losing you? Okay, where was I?
Hunger Games, the interesting challenge.
Yeah, so you know, the first, I was working with the Civil Wars on a film called Finding North. It's going to play here, and it's a beautiful film about a really important reality. And I ran into the Civil Wars, and they knocked me out. I saw them play live, the two of them just standing in a room, you know, like busking, and they were killing and improvising, and it was wild. So I said, "Come work on this film with me," and we started out to write a song, and then we wrote about 2 or 3 songs, and then we just started scoring the thing. We just started free-proving, you know, and scored the whole film. But then I said, you know, so let's do a song for this other film too, this Hunger Game, the other Hunger film, you know.
Yes.
And they wrote this extraordinary song that became the first song. The director completely fell in love with it. He wanted, at first it was the end title song, and then, you know, it had all these different uses, and ended up being being second in title or third in title or something. But then other songs started coming up. Other artists would suggest themselves, or would be, you know, Glenn won an Academy Award, you know, for Once, for his movie Once, which in my view, the 2 best music movies ever made are Coal Miner's Daughter and Once. I think they're the, you know, I think Once is as good as it gets. So Glenn was maybe my second call, you know, because I dig him. And then just people, you know, people we love. And my doctor told me I can only work with people I love.
Can I have your doctor?
Yeah. and your people. Robert,